Betrayal doesn't always wear a wedding ring. Sometimes it wears a name tag, smiles across your desk, and calls itself your colleague. We've seen what happens when love turns to revenge. But what about when loyalty at work becomes the weapon that destroys you? This time it's not a husband, not a best friend. It's someone who should have been on her team. Hi, everyone. My name is Maya Collins, and I'm speaking to you from Chicago, Illinois. It's been 2 years since this happened, and even now, it still feels like yesterday. Before I go on, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. And tell me, have you ever seen someone get revenge at work? Or maybe you've had your own office payback moment. I want to hear your story because mine. It's one you'll never forget. He said I was too soft, too trusting, too emotional for corporate life. So he took credit for my project, cost me my promotion, and thought I'd just walk away quietly. But he didn't know. I was planning something he could never undo. I was 32, working as a project manager at one of Chicago's top marketing firms, Harrison & Company. 6 years of dedication, late nights, skipped weekends, and the belief that good work always speaks for itself. And for a while it did. I built a name for myself. Not loud, not flashy, just reliable, creative, and committed. Until he came along. Ethan Blake. My boss. Charming. Ambitious. The kind of man who knew exactly how to manipulate a compliment. First, I thought we worked well together. He'd always say, Maya, you're the backbone of this department. I couldn't do half of this without you. And I believed him. Because honest people believe words that sound kind. But those words, they were the setup for a much darker plan. Ethan wasn't just complimenting me, he was watching me. And I didn't see it until it was too late. One Friday night everything changed. I was in the office alone, finishing a campaign I'd spent months creating. The Phoenix Project. It was my baby. Every detail, every concept mine. It was meant to launch me into the next level. At around 8:30, Ethan walked in. He smiled, that confident, rehearsed smile, and said, Maya, you should go home. I'll handle the presentation tomorrow. I hesitated. You'll handle it. He nodded. You've done enough. Get some rest. At the time it felt like kindness. But the next morning, I learned what it really was. When I walked into the boardroom, my heart nearly stopped. On the screen, my project, my research, my design, everything. But it wasn't me presenting it. It was Ethan. And when the CEO stood up, shook his hand and said, Brilliant work, Ethan. You've outdone yourself. The room erupted in applause. I just stood there, frozen, smiling through the kind of pain that burns behind your eyes. A coworker leaned over and whispered, You okay? I forced a small laugh. Yeah, I'm fine. But I wasn't. Not even close. That afternoon, I sat at my desk staring at the reflection in my black computer screen. I'd spent 6 years believing that hard work and loyalty always win. But I was wrong. 'Cause sometimes, the people you build up are the ones who tear you down. And in that silence, I made a promise to myself. He thought he could humiliate me in front of everyone, and I'd just take it. But humiliation has a funny way of turning into fuel. That day I decided. If he wanted to play dirty, I'd play smarter. If you've ever been betrayed by someone at work, stay with me. Because what I did next wasn't impulsive. It was patient. It was strategic. And it was the beginning of the most satisfying revenge my office had ever seen. And Ethan Blake. He never saw it coming. They thought they ended me. But all they did was write the first chapter of my comeback. You're watching Revenge by Valerie. And this is only the beginning of Caught in the Act. The ultimate office payback. Because sometimes, karma doesn't knock. It walks right through the office door. The next few weeks felt like walking through fog. My calendar was empty. My tasks were reassigned. My worth, erased with one office memo. First I thought it was a temporary setback. Maybe a misstep, a wrong turn. But deep down I knew something was off. I started showing up earlier, staying later. Maybe I could turn things around. Maybe if I worked just a little harder it would be enough. But the further I pushed, the more invisible I became. My emails went unanswered. Projects I usually led were suddenly already assigned. My drafts no longer needed. Ethan had made sure of that. It was that morning when I walked into the office and saw him sitting at my desk. Ethan in my chair with my nameplate. His jacket was off, his sleeves rolled up. He looked like he was settling in. "Hey Maya," he said casually. His voice smooth, almost rehearsed. Just while they rearranged the seating chart. My files were gone. My personal notes. My everything. For a moment I stood there, completely paralyzed. Then I managed to say, "Ethan, I think you've got the wrong desk." He didn't even look up. Later that day I went to Claire's office. My hands were trembling as I knocked. I had to know what was happening. I had to understand how everything had shifted so quickly. "Maya," Claire said without looking up. She was typing furiously. "We've been thinking about it, and we've decided to give Ethan more responsibility. You'll be reporting to him now." It felt like the ground beneath me cracked open. Reporting to him. The man who used to come to me for help writing his emails. For guidance on proposals. Didn't make sense. But Claire was already shifting in her chair, tapping away at her keyboard. "You're great at support work, Maya. And we value that. But Ethan, he's got that spark." The word spark echoed in my head. Spark. That's what she had to say about me. About all the years I'd poured into this company. I could feel the weight of her words in my chest, but I said nothing. Couldn't. I just nodded and walked out of her office, already retreating into the quiet of my thoughts. That night as I sat at my desk, his desk now, I began to build my plan. Quietly, methodically, I started gathering everything I had ever worked on. All the proposals, the campaign designs, the research, everything. I didn't know what the next step was, but I could feel it in my bones. This was just the beginning. In the midst of this storm, a stranger walked into my life. His name was Jake. Jake wasn't part of the office. He was a freelance writer I met at a networking event. He worked with several brands, and his own story of betrayal in the industry echoed my own. For some reason I trusted him right away. We started meeting for coffee after hours. No pressure. No agenda. Just two people talking about the hardships they'd faced. And slowly I started confiding in him. I shared everything about Ethan, Claire, the way my career was slipping through my fingers. Jake didn't tell me what to do. He just listened. And for the first time in months I felt like someone cared. He didn't want anything from me. He wasn't trying to fix me. He was just there. I knew what I had to do, but patience was key. Revenge doesn't work in the heat of the moment. It's a long game. And I had time. For weeks I stayed quiet. I smiled at Ethan. I nodded at Claire. But inside I was planning. I studied Ethan's every move, every email he sent, every meeting he attended. And I noticed something: he was sloppy. Every time he tried to present something new, I could see the flaws, the gaps in his work. But what he didn't know was that I had already set everything in motion. It wasn't rage that fueled me. It was cold, calculated precision. I didn't go to HR. I didn't call Claire. I didn't make a scene. Instead, I waited until Ethan presented his next big report. That night I went through the shared drive. And there it was, my work. My proposals, my research. His name on it. My fingerprints all over his success. So I sent a simple email to the clients. "Hello, just following up on the Q3 proposal Ethan presented. Attaching the original drafts for your record, in case you'd like to verify the data sources." The emails started flying. The calls started coming in. Clients began questioning the discrepancies in the data, the reports that didn't match the original documents. I didn't say a word. I just watched as everything began to unravel. Ethan was finally being exposed for the fraud he was. Within days, Claire called an emergency meeting. She looked rattled. Ethan looked pale. And me. I just sat back, calm and collected. I didn't need to say anything. The truth was already speaking for itself. When HR called me in for a statement, I provided all the evidence, the timestamps, the emails, the client feedback. No emotion, just the facts. Ethan was suspended, pending investigation. Claire was on edge. The entire office was in chaos. I didn't have to do anything more. The damage had been done. Ethan had underestimated me. He thought I would quietly fade into the background. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. 2 weeks later, Ethan returned to the office, but he wasn't the same. His shoulders were slumped, his tie crooked. The golden boy was gone. He came up to me, desperation in his eyes. "Maya, please. You have to understand, I didn't mean for things to go this far." I looked at him, calm and unwavering. "Didn't mean to. Or didn't think I'd notice." His eyes darted around, searching for sympathy that wasn't there. "You mean the presentation you stole? Or the career you destroyed?" The silence that followed was deafening. And I knew then he understood. He knew exactly who I was now. The next day, Claire resigned. Personal reasons, they said. But the truth was clear to everyone. She knew exactly what had happened. Ethan was terminated. Claire was quietly let go. And me. I was promoted. Not to assistant. Not to support. But to department lead. The very position Ethan had schemed for. The day I stepped into that corner office, I looked out at the city skyline and felt peace. Not joy, not pride, just satisfaction. The balance had been restored. I redecorated Ethan's desk. Moved it right into the corner where the light hit it just perfectly. It wasn't a trophy. It was a reminder. People in the office started calling it the Karma Desk. And every time someone new joined the team, I made sure they understood one thing. Loyalty matters here. Credit matters. Integrity isn't optional. Because revenge doesn't always come with shouting or destruction. Sometimes it looks like calm leadership from the woman they tried to erase. The best revenge. Letting them watch you become everything they said you couldn't be. It's strange, isn't it? How betrayal teaches you more about strength than success ever could. For a long time I blamed myself. I replayed every moment, every favor, every late night I stayed to help Ethan. I thought, maybe if I'd been tougher. Maybe if I'd seen it coming. But the truth is, people will show you who they are, and it's not your job to change them. It's your job to learn, rise, and protect your peace. The weeks after Ethan's suspension were quiet. Too quiet. The office was tense. Each day a step closer to the inevitable storm. Everyone could feel the tension, but no one said a word. People avoided eye contact when they passed me. They knew what had happened, but they were too scared to confront the truth. And then there was Claire. I saw her in the break room one afternoon, looking more frazzled than I had ever seen her. She hadn't been the same since Ethan's downfall. The woman who once ruled the office with an iron fist now looked frail, defeated. But I wasn't feeling sorry for her. Not anymore. As I sat there, pretending to look through my emails, I couldn't help but overhear her conversation with another department head. It was mostly hushed whispers, but the words I caught stung. "We need to recover this somehow," Claire was saying. "We can't let this affect our quarterly results." Her voice cracked slightly, but she quickly regained composure. "I need to make sure Maya stays out of the spotlight. She's too dangerous now." Dangerous. I wanted to laugh. But I didn't. Because I knew exactly what she meant. They were afraid of me now. Of what I could do. Have you ever seen someone so afraid of the truth that they try to silence the person who knows it? What did you do? Share your thoughts in the comments. In the midst of all the chaos, there was one person who kept me grounded. Jake. We'd started seeing each other outside of work. Slowly, almost hesitantly at first. I never wanted a relationship. Not while I was dealing with the storm Ethan had caused. But Jake, he had been a breath of fresh air. He didn't ask for anything, and he didn't judge me for what I was going through. One evening, after the office had emptied out for the night, I met Jake at a quiet cafe. It was a spot we both enjoyed, away from the noise and drama of the office. "I'm proud of you, Maya," Jake said, taking a sip of his coffee. His gaze was warm, steady. You've got your power back. It was the first time anyone had said that to me. And I realized how true it was. All the moments I had spent doubting myself, all the times I thought I wasn't enough, they were gone. We didn't talk about work. We didn't need to. But in that moment I knew that I could trust him. Maybe I was starting to trust myself again, too. Has anyone in your life ever given you the support you needed at just the right time? How did it change things for you? I'd love to hear your experiences. I knew what I had to do, but patience was key. Revenge doesn't work in the heat of the moment. It's a long game. And I had time. For weeks I stayed quiet. I smiled at Ethan. I nodded at Claire. But inside I was planning. I studied Ethan's every move, every email he sent, every meeting he attended. And I noticed something: he was sloppy. Every time he tried to present something new, I could see the flaws, the gaps in his work. But what he didn't know was that I had already set everything in motion. How do you deal with waiting for the right moment? Do you take action immediately or wait patiently for the perfect opportunity? Drop your thoughts below. It was a Tuesday afternoon when my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. Maya. The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, cold and businesslike. This is Nathaniel James from corporate headquarters. I need you to come in for an emergency meeting. We need to discuss some serious matters regarding your department. I felt my stomach drop. I thought everything was under control. Everything was supposed to be fine. But something was wrong. Something was coming. Have you ever been called into a meeting where you knew something big was about to happen, but you weren't sure what? How did you handle it? I arrived at corporate headquarters an hour later, my heart pounding in my chest. The building felt different. The walls were too high, the ceilings too low. It was as if everything in that place was closing in on me. Nathaniel James met me in the lobby. He was taller than I expected, with sharp features and a no-nonsense demeanor. He didn't smile. Follow me, Maya. He led me through a series of long corridors, past rows of closed doors, until we reached a small conference room. Inside sat two men I didn't recognize, both dressed in suits that could only mean one thing: corporate lawyers. Maya, Nathaniel began, we've reviewed the entire situation, your documentation, your work history, your results, and after extensive investigation, we've come to a conclusion. I braced myself, but I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. We are aware of Ethan's misconduct, he said. We also understand that Claire's decisions led to a failure to protect your contributions. As a result, both Ethan and Claire have been terminated. And we've decided that you're the one who should be leading the department moving forward. For a moment everything stopped. The words echoed in my mind. I was the one leading the department. Ethan's chair. Claire's job. They were mine now. And there was no one who could take that from me. What would you do if you found out that everything you've worked for, every moment of your career, was about to pay off? How would you handle the moment you realize you're finally in control? Let me know your thoughts. The following week, Ethan returned to the office, but he was a shell of the man who had once stood so confidently in front of everyone. His golden boy image had been shattered, and he knew it. The office buzzed with whispers, but no one dared speak to him. His colleagues who had once admired him now avoided him like the plague. One afternoon, I saw him standing in the hallway, looking lost. He saw me too, and there was a moment, just a brief second, where I thought he might say something. But then he swallowed, straightened his tie, and walked past me. But it wasn't the silent walk of a defeated man that gave me closure. It was the moment when I finally realized I had reclaimed everything he had tried to take from me. The office, the position, the respect, they were all mine now. Have you ever had that final confrontation where someone who wronged you finally faces the consequences? How did it feel to finally see the tables turn? Share your thoughts below. The day Claire resigned was the day I knew everything had fallen into place. She walked out of the office with her head held high, but I saw the crack in her composure. She wasn't the woman who once held power in the office anymore. She was just another casualty of Ethan's ambitions. A month later, I got the official call from corporate headquarters. Ethan and Claire had both been terminated. I, however, had been promoted to the position Ethan had so desperately craved. It wasn't a victory lap. It wasn't a celebration. It was simply a quiet moment of peace. I looked out over the city from my corner office and felt nothing but satisfaction. I had fought for this. I had earned it, and no one could take it from me. The first time I stepped into that corner office, I looked out at the city skyline and felt peace. Not joy, not pride, just satisfaction. The balance had been restored. I redecorated Ethan's desk. Moved it right into the corner where the light hit it just perfectly. It wasn't a trophy. It was a reminder. People in the office started calling it the Karma Desk. And every time someone new joined the team, I made sure they understood one thing. Loyalty matters here. Integrity matters. And credit. That's earned. Because revenge doesn't always come with shouting or destruction. Sometimes it looks like calm leadership from the woman they tried to erase. The best revenge. Letting them watch you become everything they said you couldn't be. It's strange, isn't it? How betrayal teaches you more about strength than success ever could. For a long time I blamed myself. I replayed every moment, every favor, every late night I stayed to help Ethan. I thought, maybe if I'd been tougher. Maybe if I'd seen it coming. But the truth is, people will show you who they are, and it's not your job to change them. It's your job to learn, rise, and protect your peace. If you've ever been betrayed, used, or underestimated, remember this. The best revenge doesn't come with destruction, it comes with rebuilding yourself stronger. Maya's journey wasn't just about taking back what was hers. It was about reclaiming her confidence, her voice, and her power. Have you ever had a moment where you realized that true strength is about standing up for yourself and letting the world see you rise? Share your thoughts and let me know how you took back your power in the face of betrayal. Because no matter how hard they try to tear you down, you always have the choice to rise again. If you found Maya's journey inspiring, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more true stories of empowerment, revenge, and transformation. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.